It's time to learn how to grow thyme, my friends, an often underrated herb. It kind of sounds basic, kind of sounds boring, couldn't be further from the truth. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to grow it successfully, and then Anna is going to unlock the power of thyme for you with 3 killer recipes for the home and the kitchen. By the way, guys, on our store right now, we have a killer spring sale. So if you want to get started on the season, head on over there, shop.epicgardening.com. It'll auto-apply at checkout, no discount code required. So browse, enjoy, and let's get back to the video. When people think of thyme, they think of this one right here, a pretty common English thyme, but there are so many different varieties. In fact, there are maybe hundreds. You've got French thyme, common thyme, German winter thyme, lemon thyme, variegated thyme, orange thyme, and creeping thyme, among many others, and all of them have a subtle aromatic scent to them that is different from the other ones. In fact, lemon thyme, which is one of our favorites here at Epic Gardening, does truly have a citrusy aroma and a bit of that lemon flavor. Woo! Don't mind me just huffing some of my thyme here. It is a woody perennial, guys. Hardy down to zone 5, probably even lower if you can pull it off. And it's a Mediterranean herb, meaning that is where it evolved. So it doesn't need a ton in the way of care, but actually a very interesting plant historically. So the first is from the Greeks, where it sort of derives from the word thumos, which means courage or spiritedness. And as the name implies, it was given to soldiers before they charged into battle. Then you have thymos, which means to perfume or to fumigate. So you could use it to, I don't know, put a little bit of incense vibe into a room, of course, flavor your aromatics, even incense at a funeral. It's also high in the compound thymol, which is a natural antiseptic and is used around the world today to combat many common ailments. So a lot of amazing qualities to it. Let's talk now about how to grow it. We're in the greenhouse. I can smell these tomatoes. We've been growing these from seed. I cannot wait to plant them out. But we're talking about thyme and how to start it. I'll give you 3 ways, easy to hard. The easiest way is to get in your car, drive to your local nursery, and buy some thyme starts. There's no shame in doing that because it's actually a bit of a finicky plant to start from seed. The second easiest way is to go to a friend and say, hey friend, can I just borrow some of your thyme? And by borrow, I mean take and never give back. And what you do is you take a little cutting, just like this, about this long is fine, and you take your fingers, give it that little strip. What you've done now is you've removed some of these leaves, and then you go straight into a tray or a pot, just like this, straight down, water that in, put a humidity dome or something on top, and you're pretty much good to go. It's a very easy rooter. It will propagate itself quite easily. So I do that with my lemon thyme as well. So that's easy because you're just working off of something existing. It's also faster. But if you want to start thyme from seed, and I do recommend it, it's pretty fun. I'll show you how to do it. So we have just a standard English thyme from our seed company, Botanical Interests, really classic variety. And what you do is I use the Jacques method on this one. I actually, don't tell him, don't give him credit, but I am using his method. So what you do is you make a little crease in the seed packet, you prep and pre-moisten some of your seed starting mix. We're using our Epic 6 cells here, and then I give it a little bit of that classic Jacques tingle, and you wanna put about 5 per cell, because this is not one of those plants that needs to be, 1 seed per hole. It's fine if all 5 come up and you don't even thin them out. You'll notice I sewed those right on the surface. You can leave them there, or if you want, you can get a little bit fancier and just sprinkle a little more soil on top. You want to hit it all with water, and then you want to keep it in a warm place, especially since those seeds are so close to the surface. You may want to put some kind of humidity dome. You could use like a milk jug cut in half, or you could just get an actual humidity dome. In about 2 to 4 weeks, you'll start to see these sprout up. So your thyme has started, whether you bought it or you've grown it yourself or you propagated it. Where do you actually plant it? These are some ideas I think work really well. The first is your classic herb planter. So in this situation, I actually have a little bit of lettuce, I've got some sage, and I have this monster thyme and some onions. But you could also do a planting much like this. There's a little bit of dill here, there's some rosemary, there's some African blue basil, and then of course there is some oregano. If you think about those Mediterranean herbs, those are all herbs that like to be in the same growing conditions. So you can mix and match these plantings however you want. I also have a rosemary, sage, thyme, and parsley just over there. But I wanted to show you something really interesting about thyme that makes it such a versatile planting. So what you'll notice here is I planted it kind of on the border of this wine barrel so it can spill over, but I only planted one little sprig of thyme many, many months ago, right in the center here. But if I was to try to pull this thyme up, look at that. It doesn't really move towards the center. It feels like it's kind of stuck here, right? Well, I'll show you why. If you take a look at this little cutting right here, what it can do is something called layering. So if I was to put this stem on the ground, and if I was to strip this stem off, you'll notice every single part where the leaves were, you can see like a tiny little node, that's where the leaves were attached. If this was to sit flat on the soil, it can actually develop roots across that entire stem. And that's why you see thyme tend to creep along surfaces, which makes it a really good herb to bush out, but also a great border planting, ornamental planting. In fact, over in my pond, I've planted thyme as a creeper ground cover. I don't plan to eat that thyme, but when I walk in that area, it can take the pressure of my feet, and it also brings this beautiful aroma to that landscaping. As far as care and issues that you might run into, there really aren't many. If you think about it, it wants well-draining soil, it's drought tolerant, it wants a lot of light, it doesn't need a ton of nutrition. And when it comes to pruning, I think of pruning as just using it. So this lemon thyme right here, if I was going to use, I'll show you the way that I would personally prune this out. I would be thinking about the structure of the plant. So I'd be saying, you know, let me take this guy, let me take this guy right here. I'll kind of shape and scape this, but of course I can just use all of these, and the way you propagate it is kind of the way you use it. You just give it that quick pull, and now you have all this thyme that you can use. If you have a thyme plant that is much larger, you can cut it back about 50% in a single year to reset the shape of it and get some nice new growth coming out. But now we have to figure out, we've harvested a ton, how are we supposed to use this? And this is where Anna comes in. She has 3 incredible recipes and preparations for you. So let's check them out.
Thyme is one of those versatile herbs that you can use fresh or dried in the kitchen. You can use it in soups, stews, roasted vegetables, sauces. And thyme contains chemicals that might help bacterial and fungal infections. It's also believed that it can help relieve coughing and have antioxidant effects, and keep your skin healthy, and even help to combat stress and anxiety. So today we're gonna do 3 projects using thyme. The first one up is going to be a thyme and honey lollipop that you can use as a cough drop or stir into warm water so that you have a warm and comforting beverage. The next one is going to be a thyme and calendula infused gardener's lotion bar, something that's going to help nourish your skin from all of the washing and the elements and all the things that gardeners get their hands into. And the last one's going to be a thyme and lemon shortbread. So let's get to the kitchen. Here's what you're going to need to make the thyme and honey lollipops. 1 cup of good quality organic honey, 1 cup of sugar, 1 lemon, a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger, a 1/4 cup of water, a small bunch of fresh lime, silicone lollipop molds, paper lollipop sticks, a thermometer. A candy thermometer works best. I didn't have one. I basically used a meat probe, a saucepan, and a sieve. Okay, so you're going to want to peel and chop up the ginger into small pieces. I like to leave mine a little bit chunky, and you're gonna see why at the end, and then you can do things to your preference. Then you're gonna zest a lemon and squeeze out the juice of half of that lemon. You're gonna grab your thyme and you're gonna start separating the leaves from the stem. Whenever you harvest any herb, you're gonna wanna do it in the morning, just after the dew has dried, because this is when the oils are at their peak. I picked a variety of thyme here. So this is lemon and lime thyme, lavender thyme, and English thyme. You're going to chop the thyme up as small as you can. Set aside about 1/4 of the ginger, the lemon zest, and the thyme. You're going to reserve this to put directly into the lollipop molds, and the majority, the rest of it, is going to get infused into water. So take the 1/4 cup of water and the larger portion of the ginger, lemon zest, and lime and bring it to a simmer for about 5 minutes. Then you're going to strain the organics out and keep the water aside. You're going to add the lemon juice, honey, water, and sugar to the pot. and you're going to slowly bring this all to a boil. It's going to start to get foamy, and you're going to have this reach 310 degrees Fahrenheit. While this is boiling, you're going to want to grab a glass of ice water and keep it handy. While the liquid is coming to temperature, sprinkle bits of the thyme, ginger, and lemon zest into the mold cavities, and then add on your paper sticks. By now, the foam is starting to get going, and it's going to go pretty quickly now. So once it reaches temp, you're going to want to double check the readiness of the final product by putting a drop of the liquid into the ice water. And if you can bend it to cracking, it's ready. That's the hard crack stage. If it bends and stays bent, it's not ready yet. You're going to hear a good crack here, and now you know it's ready. You're going to let the liquid cool down a bit so there aren't a ton of bubbles. Now, just so you know, these silicone molds are safe to 450 degrees, so this temperature is totally fine for it. There's going to be enough liquid to fill 2 trays of mold. There is going to be a little bit extra, and what I usually do is I just pour it into drops on a Silpat mat or silicone mat, and my husband basically eats these like candy. And now you're going to wait for a few hours or overnight, and then we're going to remove these from the mold. So it's been about 6 hours since we poured these lollipops in the mold, and I think they're ready to go. They should come out pretty easily, and here they are. So if you have a sore throat or a scratchy throat, this is just like a giant cough drop that tastes amazingly good. Or you can take a hot mug of water and just stir it in until it dissolves, and then you have a nice comforting beverage. But either way, they will stay good about 3 months on the counter. You can keep them in the fridge if you'd like. I usually wrap them in a little bit of cellophane or put them in a big jar, and then you just kind of have to wrangle the stickiness out of them. But now you have your honey and thyme lollipop. All right, so now that we've finished the lollipops, we're gonna move on to make a thyme and calendula infused gardener's lotion bar. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is collect thyme right after the dew dries in the morning. So not first thing in the morning, but a couple hours that allows the sun and the air to dry out the thyme. That's when the oils are the most volatile. And then you're gonna let it dry out for about 2 to 3 weeks. And you want it to be very dry, so you can hear the crinkling and the crunching of the leaves. And then you're just going to run your fingers down the stems and fill a glass jar 3/4 of the way full of the thyme leaves. If you get some stems in there, it is not a big deal. It's not going to change the integrity of the oil at all, but try and get as many leaves in there and avoid the stems if possible. But if you get in there, don't worry about it. You're going to do the same thing with the calendula flowers. You want them nice and dry, and you're going to fill the glass jar 3/4 of the way full. Once your jar is full, you will fill it with a carrier oil, which can be olive oil, jojoba, grapeseed, sunflower, argan, sweet almond. There are really a lot to choose from. I mix my oils based on what I'm trying to achieve and where I'm using it. For these lotion bars, I'm going to be using a mix of grapeseed, sweet almond, and a touch of olive oil to really nourish those hands. Once that jar is 3/4 of the way full, you're going to start adding your oils, and you're going to see bubbles as you pour. So shake the jar a bit, or use a chopstick or a popsicle stick to dissipate the bubbles. The organics are going to absorb all that oil, so make sure you give a few minutes and then top off the jar with a bit more oil. There are 3 basic ways that you can infuse botanicals and organics into oil. We've already covered one, the cold fusion method, in a past video. Today I'm going to be talking about the warm fusion method, and it's done in a similar way, but it's faster. So you are going to use very dried organics. So I have waited until this thyme is like paper and falling apart. And then you are just going to fill a glass jar 3/4 of the way full with organics. And then what you're going to do is we're going to put it in a crock pot bath. So basically what's happening is you are infusing the oil with heat as quickly as possible, quickly meaning overnight, versus the 4 to 8 weeks that it takes for a cold fusion. I seal up the jar. I don't put it really tight. I don't tighten the lid too much. I've got a dish towel in here because it helps regulate the heat a little bit. You don't want the glass to be touching the heating element so close. It's kind of a safety measure for me. And this is not going to light on fire. It's in water. I have this on low. You can also keep it on warm, but you want it to be about 130 degrees, and you want to keep it there at least for 12 hours, but overnight is ideal. And you can already start to see the color of the oil changing to be a little bit darker, but this is just a faster infusion method. And it's debatable to say which one is the best method of infusing oils. I prefer the cold method because I liked the process of thyme, just kind of breaking everything down and really taking the essences out of the organics. But honestly, I haven't seen much of a difference between this version and the cold fusion method. So it's really up to you, but this definitely goes a lot faster. The oil has been infusing overnight and you can see that this beautiful golden color has emerged. And now we're gonna strain out the organics. So grab a clean glass jar that is pretty large and some cheesecloth or strainer and empty out the contents of the jars and give it a really good squeeze. I usually use a funnel for good reason because I lost some of my oil to the counter here, but make sure that you are squeezing really hard because it's kind of shocking how much the organics absorb the oil and how much you can get out of there. All right, so now you're gonna grab a pot to create a double boiler. You're gonna fill the pot about 1 to 2 inches deep with water, and then you're gonna use a Pyrex bowl. I'm using this Pyrex measuring cup because it makes it so much easier to pour as my double boiler. So I'm gonna pour out the contents and start with 1 part cosmetic grade beeswax. I use a white beeswax, and again, it's cosmetic grade because we're gonna be using it on our skin. And I used a cup for my recipe, but everything that we're gonna be using is gonna be in equal parts. So 1 part per ingredient. So you're gonna want to have the beeswax melt first because it takes the longest. So you really gotta practice some patience on this one. Just have the beeswax melt down first. And then you're gonna add 1 part shea butter. And make sure you do not overheat the shea butter because if it gets overheated, it gets grainy. So you're going to want to keep an eye on it and remove it from the heat as soon as it's melted. As the shea butter is melting, add in 1 part of your infused oil and add it in slowly because the temperature difference is going to re-solidify what you're melting down. So you'll see that happening here a bit. All you're going to do is just stir things around to break it up. And once everything's melted, you can add in essential oils if you want. I usually don't. I usually actually leave everything pretty plain, but we have a lavender farm pretty close to us. So I bought some lavender essential oil that smells amazing. I'm adding about 40 drops to it right when everything is melted and off the heat. I'm going to be using these super cute silicone flower molds, and I'm not filling them up completely full because these molds are quite large. I think they're actually made for cakes. So I'm only filling them about halfway, maybe a little under halfway. I'll have enough for about 12 in this size. And once I'm done with that, we're going to wait overnight for these to solidify. I absolutely love silicone molds because they release so well on pretty much anything. Even the stickiest of substances will come out of this. But look how beautiful these are. So these are all just different kinds of flowers. Again, I filled them about just under halfway. And I think these are honestly the perfect size for putting in your hands to use. And sometimes when you fill them completely full, I mean, you can see how deep this cavity is. That is a giant lotion bar, and I get bored too easy for that. And sometimes they could get dirty or get lint in it. We have 3 dogs. They could have dog hair in it. You can just see how beautifully these turned out. I usually cut up the leftover parchment paper for where I rested the silicone molds on, and then just create a little packet like this and tie it up with twine. It'll last about 6 months, just like that. You can also use the top of a mason jar. You can get those cute little metal tins that have a lid on it so that you can keep it safe from all harm. Just make sure that you keep it out of direct sunlight or any kind of heat source because it will melt. Now, I will just say this, that they seem super oily to begin with. I think anytime you make a homemade product like this, you tend to say, oh my gosh, that's so greasy, and you can see how greasy it is. But it will actually absorb into your skin incredibly fast. So then in a couple of minutes, this will be completely absorbed and you won't have that super greasy feeling. You just need to not touch anything for a couple of minutes and then you should be good to go. Okay, now it's time to make that delicious shortbread. Let's go grab the ingredients. So here's the list of ingredients. It's going to be popped up on the screen. This is my favorite shortbread recipe because I'm not fiddling with individual cookies since this is made in a pie plate style. These are melt in your mouth perfect, and the thyme and lemon combo is really phenomenal. You're going to preheat your oven to 325 and start combining the lemon juice, sugar, and vanilla. I make my own vanilla, which is a surprisingly simple task, and I'll have to share that one day. And then add in your almond extract. You're going to cream everything together until it's well incorporated. Then you're going to sprinkle the thyme in. I'm using the same combo that I did in the other recipes, which is a lemon thyme, a lime thyme, a lavender, and English thyme. Then you're going to slowly add the flour so it's thoroughly mixed in. It's going to start to get crumbly, but stay with it because it will soon become this soft, pliable, beautiful dough. You're going to line a 9 or 9.5 inch pie plate with parchment paper and press the dough into the pan. And then you're going to add the turbinado sugar or the demerara sugar on top and then finish it off with a lemon zest. You're going to bake it for 35 to 40 minutes on top of a foil lined cookie sheet, and you're going to bake it until it gets a little bit golden on top. I like a bit of a softer shortbread, but if you like a crisper one, you're going to want to add on an additional 5 minutes. And now look at that. We are going to cut it into wedges. And there you go. I think most of us have used herbs to cook with in the traditional sense, with chicken, veggies, or marinades, or even to infuse in oil with a little balsamic to dip bread in. But it's kind of cool to see how herbs can be used in desserts, combined with honey to help our bodies, and can be infused in oil to use topically. And how awesome that herbs can provide other benefits aside from just a punch of flavor.
So it is time to get some thyme into your gardens this season, my friend. Have some fun with it. And if you're curious about any of our other herb guides, you can check out this playlist right here. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.